Hello. I would like to make a video about real diagnosis versus mob diagnosis. Now, what do I mean by mob diagnosis? You may be wondering. I don't know. Anyway, what I mean by mob diagnosis is what makes sense to the majority of any given faction. So, let's say, for example, you had a motorbike gang, right? And this motorbike gang, you were a part of, but you're like the rookie, you're like the runt of the motorbike gang. Anyway, so you're trying to, you're going to do this motorbike gang robbery. Okay, it's in the works, and it's in the beginning stages of the works. Well, mob diagnosis is it's the simplified idea of the motorbike gang robbery, essentially. So you're going to do a motorbike gang robbery. You're starting to figure out how you're going to go about it. Mob diagnosis is like, let's just go in there and we'll just take the stuff and we'll run off. So you miss out on all the details. It's basically, simplified comprehension. Whereas real diagnosis is when you are factoring in the details to this motorbike gang robbery. You're factoring, okay, what time should this robbery occur? How many people should be involved? So head count, right? What sort of equipment should be used in this motorbike gang robbery, and basically you get the point. All the detailed factors you're inviting into your perception when you are doing real diagnosis. You're really being very analytical. You're looking at everything. You're seeing what makes logical sense versus what doesn't. And it's more specialized, individualized, you could say. Whereas mob diagnosis isn't specialized. Mob diagnosis is for mere comprehension. So it's not for understanding, but it's for mere comprehension. And now the problem with mob diagnosis is that it's so simplified that it creates this bandwagoning effect. Hence, they'll say, people hopping on the bandwagon. It creates this bandwagoning effect, and it also it leads to people who are not equipped to take control of situations. It leads to them being put up the rungs of the hierarchical ladder, so to speak. It leads to people who should never have power being in power. And the reason they should never have power is because while they are very good at comprehending certain things, they are terrible at understanding the things that they are comprehending. So comprehension versus understanding. That's, mob diagnosis versus real diagnosis. You want somebody who has most of the power. If you're going to have a hierarchical type system, you want the person who has the most of the power to be someone who's interested, so has their attention arrested in real diagnosis, versus somebody who is uninterested and just wants their own personal goals met, who's more interested in mob diagnosis, and so they will employ demagoguery to sort of get what they want without thinking of the greater, wider ramifications. But anyway, um, real diagnosis versus mob diagnosis. That's what I wanted to talk about. A lot you see nowadays, online especially, you see a lot of mob diagnosis, and it's perpetuated by the mainstream media, because it's profitable currently for the mainstream media to push mob diagnosis. Um, and it's not just the mainstream media, but it's these platforms, of social media too. They push mob diagnosis. What do you think, the red pill is? What do you think, incels this, incels that is? What do you think, third wave is? What do you think, conservatives, versus progressives? The people who are slaves to roaming millennial, and versus the people who are slaves to the young Turks. What do you think all that's about? That's about mob diagnosis. It's not about real diagnosis. Maybe at one point it was, circa 2000, 2001, 2002, around that time, but I'm doubting that too. But it's not really about real diagnosis anymore. It's just bandwagoning. It's mob diagnosis, and it's dangerous, to keep, elevating these individuals and these individuated factions who employ demagoguery. It's dangerous for the whole civilization. If we look at the metaphysical civilization of the internet, online, social media, and the like, what we see is, we see the civility taken out of civilization. And so anyway, I just wanted to make this video to sort of point the difference out between real diagnosis versus mob diagnosis. Anyway, have a good day. Peace. Meow.